Hey, my name's Xenu, and you're listening to Anti Moonboy News. We got a good episode for you guys this week. We're going to be talking about Nightmare Eclipse, or the nightmare that is encroaching on Windows and their terrible disclosure response team. So we're going to be talking about that, the Exolix vulnerability that got released this week. Yet another one. I guess we got to start a counter. How many consecutive weeks we're having an exploit hit the Monero world? And speaking of exploits, we will be returning to eigenwallet. There was an update about what had happened actually with their exploit. And it's actually worse than I had reported last week. So we're going to do all that and more. If you like the content, please consider donating to xmrchat.com/Xenu. But we begin this week with the Nightmare Eclipse Saga. And this started, well, it's been going on now for this individual, he or she. We don't know who this individual is. They just go by the pseudonym Nightmare Eclipse. They are an anonymous security researcher for Windows, it looks like. It seems like they focus on Windows. And they have a history of finding some pretty severe vulnerabilities. And apparently, and you know, they have a blog and they've documented things in that over the past couple months, they've been trying to deal with the Microsoft disclosure team. They said that they have a vulnerability. Microsoft says, okay, show us proof of that. It goes back and forth, right? And apparently, they haven't been taking this Nightmare Eclipse seriously, which is kind of crazy because they've been showing them some pretty serious exploits. And the most recent one is by far the most jarring. And so I talked about this one a couple of weeks ago on my program. It's called Yellow Key. That's right, it's called Yellow Key. And I tried it out actually on my dad's laptop, and it worked. This thing is a legitimate backdoor, and I am not making that up. This is a backdoor for Windows. This is actually pretty big news. I mean, we've always kind of assumed that Windows was backdoored. You know, we've kind of always been under the impression that it was. This is the first time I'm seeing proof of it. And I literally tried it myself, and it worked. It's very simple. Now, you can't do this now because the GitHub is taken down. More on that in a sec. But when the GitHub was up, basically you just copied the files that were found on the GitHub onto a USB. Then you plug the USB into your target's device. You hit start, and you hold control while the computer is beginning to load. And by doing that, you will immediately be put into PowerShell in the system. And then you can do whatever you want. This is a backdoor, like by definition, because it's a skeleton key, basically. You don't need any sort of password. And the question then turns to, why is this even a thing? You know, like, why is this even a possibility? Like, how is this even possible? And really the only logical conclusion that anybody can reach here is that it is by design. Anyways, this was found by this individual, Nightmare Eclipse, and he emailed them, hey, I found this is a big exploit, you know, whatever. And they pretty much, they brushed him off. We don't agree or whatever. And he's like, no, seriously, I should get paid for this. And Microsoft said no. And eventually he's like, you know what? Fuck it. He said, fuck it. He uploaded everything on GitHub. And it's not just this one. He has another one as well, which can be used remotely, where you can gain higher privileges on someone's computer, I believe. However, this one, Yellow Key, requires local access. So you have to actually physically put a USB into a target's computer. But I mean, I mentioned this on my podcast like a week or two ago. Like, this is like opening the door for like investigations that have hit like a wall. Like, hey, now we can break into certain laptops or computers now because we have this skeleton key, right? So it's a big deal. It's a big story for Windows and Windows security, and yet the Windows disclosure team, the individuals who want to know about vulnerabilities, they're brushing this off, and they're saying it's not a big deal. And it kind of leads to the point of like, why would they do that? And this has actually led to a whole host of individuals coming forward and saying, yeah, the same thing happened to me. Because not only did Microsoft this week pour gas on the fire. That's the expression. I had a brain fart there. Microsoft poured gas on the fire, and they made things worse. And they went after and they took down the GitHub. And they basically said, this guy's lying. He's a crazy person. Pretty much that's what they were implying. We have all the documentation on our side, right? Basically saying he's making this all up. And Nightmare Eclipse on the other side, he or she is saying, no, I have documentation showing you guys are lying. And frankly, I'm going to be totally upfront with you. I'm completely on Nightmare Eclipse's side because I don't trust Microsoft at all. And there's all these other security researchers coming forward saying the same thing. And so this is kind of turning into a big story. Now, I don't know how much bigger it's going to get. I do believe it is going to get bigger. And it could have some pretty big repercussions for Microsoft and really for the kind of the whole ecosystem in general. Because if there's ever a time we need more vulnerability disclosures, it's now. We're seeing a record amount of exploits happening. A lot of this is due to this vibe hacking craze that's now going on, where people are just using LLMs, to find exploits. It's only going to get worse. So we need to be paying the researchers. And, Microsoft, I think they can afford to pay some of these people. I think they have like billions in revenue. But instead, the racket, the grift that they have is they say, oh, it's not a big deal, and then they patch it anyway. So they turn down paying them, and then they just patch it on the side. Kind of like say, hey, it's not a big deal, and then they, okay, that's actually a big deal, guys. We should probably patch this. It's an absolute racket, and they have all these lawyers on their side defending them. And it's not just Microsoft, too. It's also, Apple, for example. It's a big deal. So anyways, we're going to read an article here from The Register, which kind of summarizes everything better than my rambling. I do apologize about my rambling today. I didn't write anything down before, so. Okay. This is The Register. A disgruntled zero-day hunter humiliated by Microsoft pledges bone-shattering drop as Redmond calls cops. 6 0 days, 3 under active exploitation, and there's more to come on July 14th. I wonder what that means. All right, let's get into this. The ongoing saga of Microsoft versus Nightmare Eclipse, the disgruntled bug hunter with a deep understanding of Windows and an even deeper grudge against Microsoft, reached a fever pitch with the researcher who has thus far released 6 Windows 0 days, promising a bone-shattering drop on July 14th. Microsoft, for its part, finally responded to the security researcher and their weaponized Windows flaws with a blog post on coordinated vulnerability disclosure about the now public bugs Red Sun, Undefend, Blue Hammer, Yellow Key, Green Plasma, and Mini Plasma. Redmond says that none of these were reported via its official channels prior to being made public. Attackers began hammering 3 of the 6, Blue Hammer, Red Sun, and Undefend, soon after Nightmare published working proof of concept exploit code for each of now banned GitHub and GitLab accounts. And I'm going to pause there. Yeah, so Nightmare Eclipse, after he was banned on GitHub, he uploaded everything to GitLab, And GitLab, I think it's privately owned, not owned by Microsoft. It was also his profile was also taken down there. So I mean, you can only imagine they probably received a cease and desist order from Microsoft telling them to take the code down. So it's very clear that Microsoft is very bothered by this and these exploits, which begs the question, right? Why aren't they paying this individual when he's coming forward discreetly saying, hey, I have these exploits? Now they're reacting. Let's continue. Yellow Key, Green Plasma, and Mini Plasma still don't have fixes, and Microsoft has deemed exploitation more likely for Yellow Key, aka CVE 2026-45585, citing a working proof of concept. We remain firmly opposed to these actions and any disclosure outside proper coordination that could harm our customers in the digital ecosystem, Microsoft wrote in a Wednesday blog, and then seemingly threatened legal action against Nightmare. Uncoordinated disclosures that put proof of concept code for unpatched vulnerabilities into the hands of bad actors are never justifiable and have real-world consequences. Our security teams across the company work tirelessly tracking threat actors who look for weaknesses just like these to track Microsoft and our customers. Our digital crimes unit will continue bringing cases against these actors and those that enable their criminal activity, coordinating as needed with law enforcement around the world. Again, I'm going to pause there. So, unless Nightmare Eclipse is lying, again, I don't think he is, whatever, but it's like they're working tirelessly to find these exploits, and it's kind of like, I think they're giving them to you, and you guys just aren't fucking paying. It's like they're looking for something that's right in front of them. You just gotta pay some of that fucking $30 billion revenue you have every year. Like, what the fuck, man? Let's move on. Microsoft did not respond to the register's questions, including whether its legal team planned to sue Nightmare, whether the zero-day researcher is a current or former employee, and whether Microsoft acts Nightmare's MSRC account, that's their disclosure platform, meaning that the bug hunter can't disclose vulnerabilities to the Windows giant. Nightmare, in their latest anti-Microsoft missive, claims Microsoft did just that. Quote, when I actively asked you to communicate with me, you refused, humiliated me, and made sure to insult me in front of people, they wrote on Saturday. You defame me in public with your CVE 2026-45585 advisory, even though you literally deleted the Microsoft account I used to report bugs to you with, and I got 0 pennies from doing so, and I still happily did like an idiot. Nightmare also noted that Microsoft still has chains in my hands preventing them from releasing documents yet or anytime in June. However, he warned, mark this date, July 14th. I will make sure your bones are shattered that day. Regardless of what does or doesn't happen on July 14th, Nightmare has already caused chaos and real enterprise-level damage, as sister engineer Muhammad Qasim Shahzad said on LinkedIn. One person caused more enterprise-level damage in 6 weeks than most APT groups cause in a year, Shahzad wrote. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for this article. There's a lot more, actually, but I'm going to just kind of skip it. I wanted to kind of give you guys a timeline of like how things are happening. And actually, as of yesterday, there was yet another update on the blog of Nightmare Eclipse, which I will link in the description. And he says that there's actually yet another exploit. He had somebody reach out to him with some sort of 0 day. It's called a Blitzkrieg instead of Blitzkrieg. And apparently it's some sort of exploit that fully bypasses BitLocker. Yeah. So all of this is happening. It's a dumpster fire, and social media is in an uproar about it. VX Underground posted an image of all these different screen caps of tweets from different security researchers who have also been stiffed. This is not an uncommon thing with Microsoft. This actually happens pretty frequently. And again, it just begs the question, why are they doing this? Like, why would they be shooting themselves in the foot when people want to actually like help them? And, it could be incompetence. It could be boomers not understanding what's going on. It could be bureaucracy. It could just be like they're evil. I'm not really sure. But this is something that is so ongoing that we know that they're full of shit when they're saying, oh yeah, this person didn't responsibly disclose anything. Their reputation's so in the gutter that like it's actually obvious they're lying. That's how bad this is. So is this the story of 2026? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But we have a couple more months at least where there will be some exploits being released. And we will see how Microsoft reacts. Because currently the way they're acting is not helping things. It's not quieting people down. It's only getting more people talking. And it's having a bit of a Streisand effect on what is, it's a very serious exploit that does work. And it's actually shocking how easy it is to get to work. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to go to our sponsors. And this week, my neighbor Tony is going to be reading the sponsors. Yeah, I'm getting fucking paid for this, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're going to get paid. All right. First up, we got fucking WebWipe. What kind of fucking name is that? I don't fucking know. WebWipe. Apparently, you can go and fucking look up the history of somebody on some fucking creepy shit. You could stalk them and shit. And actually, I might have a fucking use for this. My friend Joey, remember Joey? He fucking owes me 2 G's. I don't know where the fuck he is. Maybe I should use WebWipe for that. But anyways, you could go to webwipe.io to fucking stalk people or some shit. Or, clean up your internet history and all your personal data. And something about crypto nerd wallet recovery bullshit. I don't fucking know about that either. Next up, we got monero.forum. Yeah, monero.forum is a place where you can go meet some fucking nerds talking about Monero, which sounds fucking horrible. And, go take a look at this. Apparently, they're advertising that you can go there because Xenu is posting. Oh, a fucking celebrity. Xenu's going to be there. Oh, are you fucking out of your fucking mind? Are you read this shit? Holy fuck. Anyway, apparently, monero.forum is a place you can go to talk about Monero or some shit or whatever. So you can go there. Next up, we got fucking unstoppable.money, which is unstoppable for some fucking reason. I don't know why. But you go there, you download the crypto wallet, play with your fucking gay ass crypto fucking currency and your DeFi? I don't fucking know what that means. Or you can go to swap. Oh, you can swap.unstoppable.money to swap your fucking crypto fucking whatever with each other. And you can use your wallet with that. I don't fucking know. Okay. Next up, we got fucking anonraffle.com. And apparently, it's a website where you can play with your crypto and raffle them or some shit. Oh, they got fucking guns, though. Now you got my fucking attention. Guess you can raffle for guns. It says it's legal. Okay, it's legal. We don't do anything illegal here on Anti Moonboy. But apparently you can go there and raffle with your Monero, and that should be a good time. So go to anonraffle.com. How many fucking advertisements do you have? There's one more? Another one? How fucking cheap are you? Jesus fucking Christ. All right, last one here, we got orangefriend.com. They got their fucking gay fucking orange frog mascot or some shit. Fucking creepy, if you ask me. Fucking creepy. But anyway, you go there, they got a directory, more swapping of Monero. Apparently you can swap Monero for other shit. And then they got a directory with other things you can do with your Monero. So you can go to the creepy frog website at orangefriend.com. You go there today. And that's about it. I'm going to go have a beer. All right, well, hopefully I didn't just scare off all my sponsors there, but thank you, Tony. Appreciate the help. Well, let's move on to the program. Back to the program. And we have up next an update on the eigenwallet exploit. So last week, I mentioned that, among all the different exploits we're looking at lately, eigenwallet was one of them. And basically, there was some attack that I had reported on, but I reported on it incorrectly based on the information that was known at the time. It turns out, actually, that the attack was worse than what we originally thought. So, according to developers, the exploit made it so after a malicious trade, the attacker would receive all of their XMR in return, and the seller would only receive 10% of the Bitcoin. Initially, it sounded like both the attacker and the receiver were to have their funds burned, making the attack, not necessarily pointless, but expensive, right? Because you're throwing money and then having the money on the other side also disappear. But apparently, as an update, it's actually a lot worse because the attacker receives all the XMR and the person selling the Bitcoin for the Monero would only receive 10% of Bitcoin in return. So definitely worse than we thought. And, the developers, they were unaware that this bug had existed. It seems like they didn't realize why it would be a concern. They mentioned something along the lines of not understanding why someone would do this attack, but it seems to me kind of obvious why someone would want to do something like this. You are actively just attacking people who are trying to, support, their project, and in doing so, you are spreading FUD and antagonizing an open source project. At the end of the day, a lot of these attacks are like that, where you're kind of just, antagonizing a lot. All right, so that is the eigenwallet update. And next up, this week's exploit. Oh yeah, more exploits. And we're talking about Exolix this week. Now, Exolix is a popular coinswap platform. They've been around now for a couple of years. They were at Monero.topia, I recall. They had some people there that were very friendly. And overall, they've been relatively popular amongst Monero people just because they've been supportive of Monero, which we do like to see. However, it's been found out that they have a pretty severe API vulnerability that was exposed. And essentially what this vulnerability allows is for somebody to look through all the transactions that have gone through their CoinSwap service from the comfort of your home. You don't need to have any, high-end chain analysis tools. And this was found by this guy, Rastersec. He wrote up a very nice blog post here. So shout out to this guy. And essentially, it's exactly the same as a exploit that happened it was probably like 5 or so years ago. There was a very similar exploit that happened to a CoinSwap service where basically, same thing. You could search basically all the transactions, and you could do this just by running some sort of script. Now, before I get to the actual exploit, I do want to make it clear that you shouldn't trust CoinSwaps anyways. CoinSwap services, as you know, are ways to take one cryptocurrency and swap it for another, and you use a centralized platform to do so. Nothing wrong with that necessarily. This is a very common way of acquiring Monero. A lot of people don't even use websites. They just use their wallet with platforms built into the wallet. The problem, though, here is that when you use a CoinSwap service, you are also abiding by their privacy policy. And nobody reads privacy policies, evidently, because if you were to read the privacy policies on a lot of these CoinSwap websites, you'd be shocked at how much information they're keeping. And so I talk about this a lot in Attack of the Poison Outputs. Shout out. Check that series out if you're interested in how to attack Monero. But how Monero is being attacked and how it will continue to be attacked even after full chain membership proofs is through metadata. It's not the actual privacy on chain, it's the privacy off chain. It's everything else. And so when you use a CoinSwap website, you are giving information away. You're giving your IP address, you're giving away your user agent, you're giving away the amount of a cryptocurrency you're sending, you're giving away where the cryptocurrency is coming from, you're giving away where it's going. If you're swapping from a transparent to a currency that's opaque like Monero, well, that is a whole trail that can be followed by chain analysis. Oh, we got a transparent ledger. Well, let's see where this came from, And so these chain analysis companies work with these centralized exchanges, and they are able to put together a step-by-step process of where a cryptocurrency started and where it ended, just by looking at the centralized exchange, and then sending a subpoena to a coinswap website saying, hey, we believe that they sent Bitcoin, or our target here sent Bitcoin to your coinswap. We want to know where it went. And so then the coinswap website would oblige, because they're legally obligated to, and they would provide the metadata from that transaction. And this is what's been happening time and time again in investigations. And Monero does not protect you from this. Now, there's an asterisk there. Yes, Monero does protect you if you're using it correctly, but even if you are using Monero, you can still get caught in this regard, right? So for example, the incognito market case. I mention this case all the time because it's someone who was using Monero, but they got caught using CoinSwap services going to centralized exchanges. They basically had a wallet, and then they would swap from this wallet that was doxed. It was their darknet market wallet. I believe it had Bitcoin. They swapped into Monero, and then after 20 minutes, which is like the average time it takes for 10 blocks to go through in Monero, or to unlock the Monero, then that person would take that Monero and send it to a KYC exchange. And so by just following this pattern, investigators were able to figure out that, okay, once that Bitcoin goes to the swap site, 20 minutes passes, 10 blocks pass, then pretty much right after that, it would go to the centralized exchange. So through timing analysis, they were able to piece together who this individual was. And yeah, they already knew who this person was. To be fair, they were already following this person. They were tipped off in other ways. But by just following this, it just made their case stronger. And they were actually able to trace this Monero. And furthermore, the amount of Bitcoin that was sent matched the amount of Monero that was sent eventually to that KYC exchange. So in this regard, it doesn't matter they were using Monero. It doesn't matter if it's a black hole, essentially. They're able to follow it. And they weren't even talking about poison outputs here. It was literally timing analysis, amount, quantifying the amount, seeing how it's very, very similar. And that's how you can expose yourself, even if you are using a completely perfect privacy protocol, like a theoretically perfect. It doesn't matter. If everything around it is leaking metadata, you can still get followed. And so that's the point I want to drill in your heads. If you've never thought of that before, CoinSwap services are not perfect. Okay, this is why we preach to use, if you can, a non-KYC method to get Monero. I know it's hard. It's a pain in the ass. It's probably something that you have to, if you really want to do it perfectly by the book, you have to make some sacrifices in terms of learning how to get Monero with cash, or you have to have some sort of business where you receive Monero. But if you can't acquire Monero in a way of like this, it is very hard to get it. So most people, the most common way that I have seen on the internet is they buy Bitcoin or Litecoin through a centralized exchange, and then they use a CoinSwap service. The other thing too, these CoinSwap websites probably not going to exist that much longer. I am repeatedly surprised at how often these sites exist, and I honestly think the only reason they continue to exist is because they're very useful in investigations. Because if you get rid of them, it's just going to push people further and further into actual, decentralized options. So currently, we do have various atomic swap kind of platforms being built. For example, Basic Swap. We got Sarai around the corner. We have also decentralized exchanges, such as RitoSwap, which, yes, was exploited recently, but it's still something I would recommend to people. In fact, it's probably my top recommendation right now, just based on the options of, hey, you can use, different payment options to acquire Monero. And in that regard, you're just dealing with one person. You're not dealing with, a known centralized entity like Kraken, for example, that is absolutely spying on you. Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody who is using or buying Monero on Kraken is immediately flagged as like, hey, we should at least keep an eye on this person, just because it comes with the territory. If you want any privacy, you're viewed as a criminal. I know it's wrong, but that's what's happening. All right, so that's out of the way. Let's now talk about this specific exploit, though, that was found by Rastersec. So basically, in this blog post, which I will link, he says that their API suffers from broken access control, which allows anybody to dump the swap history of any integrating partner. Across 7 integrations, I enumerated 355,000 transactions spanning January 2025 through May 2026. And he found transactions with Edge, Exodus non-US, Monero, BTC Pay Server plugins, Exodus US, Temple Wallet, and egtoken.io. Now, Exolix, so how did he do this? Yeah, Exolix provides partners with API keys to integrate swaps into their apps. The integrations usually embed them during build time or hardcode them in public code repositories. Finding the keys is trivial and proves why it is a good idea to make your own API wrapper and store keys server-side. Exolix issues 2 types of API keys. The first is a manually generated opaque string. These are issued directly by Exolix staff to select partners. Example given, Cake Wallet, e.g. Cake Wallet, and are not vulnerable. The second type is a JWT issued through the partner panel. The JWT payload contains the partner's email, a user ID, and an expiration set 5 years out. These JWTs grant full read access to the partner's transaction history via get/API/v2/transactions. And this is the vulnerable key type. For Android apps like Edge and Monero, decompiling the APK with APK tool or JADX reveals the keys in plain sight, hard-coded in configuration files or source code. For open source integrations like BTC Pay Server plugins and Exodus, the keys are sitting right in their public Git repositories. In every case, the JWT key is not scoped or restricted. It grants full read access to the partner's entire transaction history, including deposit addresses, withdrawal addresses, amounts, timestamps, on-chain transaction hashes, and swap statuses. There's no rate limiting or IP restriction to speak of. Later on, Exolix staff implemented WAF rules using Cloudflare instead of solving the root problem. And as an aside, I did check the Exolix Twitter page, and I don't see any response from them on this matter. So yeah, then he goes through an example where he actually shows what a swap record looks like, and it has pretty much everything. It has the amount, the name of the cryptocurrency it's coming from, where it's going to, when it was created, the deposit address, the withdrawal address, the refund address. Yeah, it's a lot of information here. I don't think it has the IP address. I don't think they log that here. That might be logged though on the actual through the actual website. So if they were able to find by they I mean like say a chain analysis company is able to find a transaction they're interested in, they can then go to the site and say, hey, we're interested in this transaction. What IP address was used to access this website at so and so time? So it has pretty much everything. Not good. Again, don't trust CoinSwap websites anyways. What's bad here, though, is that anybody can look this up if you were to do exactly what this guy who wrote this blog did. So this is not something that has any like elite hacker tools or anything. It seems pretty straightforward. So anyway, the blog then shows a bunch of the or screen caps of chats that this individual had with Exolix. Apparently, at first he was trying to figure out some sort of commissions that he could set up, and that was really unhelpful. And then he found the vulnerability, and when he forwarded the vulnerability to them, they really didn't care that much. They actually called it a feature and not a vulnerability at all, implemented at the request of some of their key partners. So I don't think they understand that this is actually pretty severe. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not going to blame the freaking, customer service rep for not understanding this. Who I blame, is the dev who's like hand waving this away, because that's bullshit. You shouldn't have something like this searchable from any sort of person on a personal computer. That's just outrageous. So yeah, Exolix sucks. But honestly, here's the fucked up thing: is a lot of these coinswap services are no better. So I mean, you can still use it, I guess. Just be aware that they're probably logging your data like all these other coinswap services. All right. So I'm in the process of editing the latest podcast, and we have not one but two news events that have happened really within the past hour that are both pretty significant, and at least I probably will be talking more about them next week when we have more information of the fallout. The first one is that Michael Saylor has just sold 32 Bitcoin for $2.5 million at an average of $77,000 per Bitcoin. That's just breaking. We will see how the market reacts. This is the first time Saylor's strategy has sold. It was sold during May 26th to May 31st. And it's the first time he sold. It's a very small amount, I've noticed. Very small. Probably just testing the market, trying to dip their toe in. And as we've mentioned on the show, we do think he's kind of, slow playing this because he's aware that the markets are very fragile as it is. So we'll see what type of impact that something like this has from Bitcoin's biggest bull, selling. So that's the first thing. The next one, though, I think is actually an even bigger story because it's related to these exploits we've been talking about. And it's freaking Thorchain yet again. This is from V12, which is a security researcher. They tweeted out that they reported a critical loss of funds bug to Thorchain. And apparently, in response, Thorchain silently patched the bug and told the security researcher that their bug bounty program is permanently retired. This researcher claims that they have more Thorchain halt DOS vulnerabilities and that they intend to release them through open disclosure in the coming few days. Oh, jeez. I mean, holy crap. Thorchain is just a disaster right now. It is an absolute dumpster fire. And you have these legitimate researchers coming forward saying, hey, this is serious. We found these exploits. And they're not even going to pay these guys. In fact, in this case, they pulled a fucking Microsoft and said, yeah, we don't, whatever. And then they patched it anyway. Oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. Whatever. Unreal. I'll link the tweet thread for that. He goes on to say that this is a quote from the security researcher. He says, the code quality is honestly not great in our opinion, so we wouldn't be surprised for there to be more crits lurking still, or critical vulnerabilities lurking still. So yeah, I mean, he's basically saying that this is a, shitty ass vibe coded fucking platform. Whatever. So I wanted to jump in here with those two breaking news stories. We'll see how this following week plays out. I do also see here, this is from ZachXBT. He responded to that tweet thread saying, "You would figure after all the exploits they had, security would be taken more seriously. Yet Thorchain continues to set the bar lower for teams." I mean, yeah. I just don't understand how this fucking platform, after we said 6 different exploits that have been taken the chain down, and they're still not taking it seriously. So I was like cautiously optimistic like 2 months ago. Then I really started to get negative on them when I found out that they were vibe coding this Monero implementation. Then they got exploited again because they had this library they were using that was 3 years old for this like critical thing that in their this important threshold signature. And now apparently they're being contacted and they're stiffing these fucking researchers who are doing great work. You get what you deserve, Thorchain. So anyways, yeah, that's that. Okay, next up, we're talking Zama. Zama, that's what it's called. This is a project I've never heard of until last week, meaning they're pretty much irrelevant when it comes to actual peer-to-peer cash. Basically, they are a stablecoin, and they censored people because they were under investigation. This is a blog post from Rand Hindi. He says, "Thanks to ZachXBT, we found the root cause and will be taking the appropriate actions to unblock the situation. It has nothing to do with Zama or privacy. The issue stems from an address related to the overnight finance hack, which deposited over 12.5 million USDC into our confidential USDC wrapper contract. Back when they did it, their address wasn't on any sanctions list and was not flagged by our KYT tools. However, a court order yesterday night placed a restraining order on various wallets linked to the hacker. Since there wasn't much utility yet for the CUSDC wrapper, there were very little funds in it, and as a result, the vast majority, over 99%, of funds in the CUSDC contract came from the single hacker's deposit. Because of this, the court order asked to freeze our wrapper contract to freeze the hacker's fund. So the sanction was not against Zama or against privacy. It was a classic restraining order, as we see often in DeFi, and we should have been notified so we could have taken the appropriate actions on our side. I want to be very clear about something. Our posture has always been compliant confidentiality. We will not tolerate any illicit behavior in our protocol. It's also really useless for hackers to try to use Zama to hide their trail, as we are precisely not a mixer. We do not obfuscate the sender and recipient, only balances and amounts. E.g., you can see the hackers' CUSDC transactions here, and they post an address. We are in touch with various people involved to resolve the situation ASAP. In the meantime, we will pause the CUSDC, CUSDT, and CWETH contracts until we have finished our investigation, identified all addresses linked to this case, and taken appropriate action. Ugh. Yeah, that's from Zama, whatever. Who gives a fuck? Yeah. Compliant confidentiality. Yeah, I mean, this is in DeFi. These guys love regulations. They love compliance. So there's a lot of people like Zama out there. A lot of projects like Zama. A lot of people supporting projects like it. And so, yeah, basically no one was using it. They saw like that there was suddenly a huge contract with all these funds anyway. They knew it was the same guy. So they just froze it, which shouldn't happen. Now, this is not supporting hackers. We're looking at this from a long-term perspective because we expect in the future censorship is going to be everywhere, and we need decentralized money. And to have something like this happen, well, this isn't decentralized. This isn't permissionlessness, right? This is somebody got a letter and they put their foot down. Let's move on. We got an article here from The Rage. Oh, we love The Rage here on Anti Moonboy. This is about the Mining in America Act. Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, this bill was introduced. The text of the bill was not available. I have a whole monologue on this. You can go through the archives and listen to that. And a lot of what I was saying is going to be talked about in this article. But basically, this Mining in America Act is going to turn miners into their own surveillance teams, collecting and reporting information to the government in exchange for economic favoritism. This article is written by Shinobi. The bill proposes capital gains exemptions for certified mining operations, meaning pools or miners who meet the program certification requirements, who sell quote-unquote certified Bitcoin, meaning Bitcoin mined by miners certified under the Mined in America program, to the United States government for inclusion in the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. This is a further economic distortion of mining competitiveness by introducing favorable benefits only to certain miners, which improve their profitability. It also creates questions for Bitcoin's fungibility by giving only certified coins a relief from capital gains, making certified coins more valuable for miners. Additional proposed programs that would require certification are loan guarantees for replacing adversary-sourced hardware, converting operations for demand response programs, and enabling grid load management systems for emissions reduction and load flexibility. Loans for projects that include load flexibility or energy efficiency at sites previously housing advisory-produced miners. Grants for improving load flexibility by including miners in the smart grid, investment grants, and grants and loans for rural compute facilities with requirements to hire locally. Mining is a very competitive business model. The difficulty adjustment that is core to Bitcoin protocol guarantees that as new miners join the network, the revenue of all miners decreases. This is a pressure constantly pushing miners' profit margins down. Preferential access to capital, such as via loans and grants, gives miners who take advantage of such programs a competitive edge over miners that do not. If these programs are enough to incentivize material increases in network hash rate, it reduces the profit margins of all miners by spreading the predefined block reward between more miners, thereby further disadvantaging mining operations who do not qualify for these programs. The bill even leaves room for a higher certification level for operations that exceed the phase-out timelines in the bill for adversary-sourced hardware in order to gate access for further grant or loan programs to only those meeting this higher bar of certification. The hardware sourcing requirements ban the purchase of any new hardware purchases produced by designated foreign adversaries after January 1st, 2027. Each year until 2030 adds a decreasing maximum percentage of foreign-sourced hardware being operated by a miner to comply. So it shows, like, for example, by January 1st, 2029, it's a maximum of 50%, and by 2030, it's 0. All competitive mining machines are currently produced in Taiwan, China, South Korea, the bulk coming from China for an adversary. I'm going to pause there, though. I don't see how this is possible. It's pretty hard to produce these things, especially mass produce them. And Taiwan has like an absolute grip on this, and most of the Asian countries do, or not most of them, but like the majority of these processors are coming out of like Taiwan and China, for example. So I don't really understand how we're going to be able to completely rely on our own hardware by 2030. That just seems unrealistic to me. So I don't even know how that would work. They would probably have to like extend it or something. Now then, it goes on to say, while the certification program is explicitly not required to participate in mining in the United States and is solely used as a qualifying requirement for participation in relevant government grants and loan programs, it leaves many questions as well as problematic implications. All mining pools or operations that wish to apply for designated grants and loans must document and attest to compliance with the applicable hardware sourcing standards. Must also maintain cybersecurity protocols consistent with minimum standards established by the Secretary, including protection of network systems, private keys, remote access tools, and physical facilities. and satisfy any additional criteria that the Secretary determines to be necessary to uphold the integrity of the certification. And so, I mean, that's pretty much it. There's more in the article here, but we can kind of just break off because, yeah, it's very vague, like what information is going to be required to become certified. You know, it seems like a KYC situation, and that's really what's happening here. This is like being branded as a, you know, oh, we're going to get more jobs in America kind of thing. But really what it is like, well, if you want to get these like capital gains, taxes like removed, if you want to make more profit, you're going to have to give us KYC information. That's really what this bill is all about. And by getting more and more of a grip on different miners, that's when they could do censoring. You know, if you have like a majority control of the hash rate and they're all KYC'd, now you can say, hey, don't let these transactions through. And if other pools are doing it, fork away from them. Those are not right. We have to have, you know, we have to have a clean blockchain or whatever. Can't have any OFAC sanctioned transactions going through. And their argument is going to be this is for the North Koreans, or, you know, it's for to prevent Iran from getting Bitcoin stuff, which is partially, this is true. Like, they are going to be doing that. But also it's going to be attacking, you know, probably innocent people as well who, you know, are just using Bitcoin regularly. If we look, you know, far in the future, you know, this type of capture, it will eventually be expanded into censoring transactions that they don't like. And that is really the big problem here. So yeah, that's the Bitcoin mining bill. We now have the text for it. I don't think this is going to pass anyways, but it's kind of showing the hand of what the government really wants to do with Bitcoin mining. You know, they want to have control, you know, over the blockchain. They want to have control over the network, and they want to be able to censor transactions. And this is just another way they're doing it. And they're kind of doing it in front of everybody. And most Bitcoiners are under the impression that OFAC sanctions wouldn't work, but it would work if the government really wants it that way. All right, and finally, before we get to the end of the program, we're going to be talking about Zcash. That's right, Zcash. And if you haven't been paying attention to the charts, Zcash pumped pretty hard. And, you know, it was a flurry of all the usual suspects crawling out of the holes. You know, you got that fucking asshole, Arthur Hayes. Does he have the most punchable face in crypto? I think he's got the lead for Moonboy of the Year, to be honest with you. Him and Saylor neck and neck at the moment. Because Arthur Hayes, man, it's just like, I'll see an image of him like looking stoically forward, and it'll be like, Zcash, is it the next big thing? Or something like that. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You know? And so anyway, all the usual suspects came crawling out, shilling Zcash, calling it, oh, it's going to change the world. Because that's what this is. This is just, it's all corporate, it's all fake. You know, it's all just a fucking, it's all a joke. They don't give a shit. Like, people, obviously Zcash has supporters. And some of them listen to my show. The people who listen to my show, though, I think they're aware that Zcash has a lot to improve. And those are the people I'm cool with, because it's like, yeah, they do. It needs to be used, right? And that's the issue here. Because you're having all these like influencers coming out and being like, oh, everyone's moving to Zcash. It's taking over and all this. And it's like, no, it's not. No one fucking uses it. And this is a point I made on Twitter. I'm like, listen, if someone with Zcash is talking shit, just say, okay, who's using it? Name me a merchant where Zcash is being used more than Monero. There aren't any. It's not even close. All the data we have shows that Monero is being used 20 times, 30 times, 40 times more than Zcash. Because people want to actually use Monero. And you can't teach that. You can't teach that. That comes from the culture itself. And Zcash doesn't have any sort of crypto anarchist culture in it. It's got none of that soul. So instead, they've, you know, pivoted to encrypted Bitcoin. and they're deluding themselves into thinking that people actually who hold Bitcoin want to switch to Zcash. This is what they're convincing themselves. And that the reason they want to switch to Zcash is because it's encrypted. It's obscured. And it's like, why the fuck would they do that? Why would somebody holding a lot of Bitcoin decide to throw it into this pump and dump vehicle? I mean, just zoom out. The Zcash chart is horrific. Why would someone holding Bitcoin want to go into that? Especially a lot of Bitcoin. So, this whole Zcash pump and dump, it's the same thing. They're looking for extra liquidity, and they fool people. I saw this one guy on Twitter. He's one of the popular Solana guys. I forget his name. He put out an apology because at the top he was saying buy Zcash. I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's getting roped into this. At the same time, fuck him because he's a Moonboy piece of garbage. But he was like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I told you to buy the top. It's like, yeah, no shit you did. You really think people want to buy Zcash right now? The market right now is clearly on the downtrend. Bitcoin's at like 72,000 right now. It's probably going to take another leg down. This is the bear market. And in the bear market, you see instances where cryptocurrencies pump and dump, and all of it's noise. You want to look at long-term trend. And yeah, right now Monero is kind of just trucking along. It's in the higher 300s, which, hey, better than we were 4 years ago, right? We're kind of just slowly on the uptrend. A little disappointing, I suppose, from a price perspective. I wish we were higher, but it is what it is. Side note too. So we'll stop talking about Zcash, but it's funny. It's funny because like with my channel, I have noticed that I am starting to get like, I won't say less engagement. Like I think my engagement's been consistently slowly growing, but I'm definitely getting like less people clicking onto my videos by virtue of them being here for the bull run. Like it's much more quiet right now, which is fine. I like this atmosphere right now. This kind of bear market, unsure atmosphere where people aren't, except the Zcash people, I guess, but people aren't like euphoric right now. It's a lot of, kind of just, yeah, it is what it is kind of behavior, like, well, bear market, I guess we can stack now kind of thing, which is fine. And, during this period, though, this is where I build my core audience of my Anti Moonboys, right? This is where the Anti Moonboys thrive. So then during a bull run, I expect my podcast is going to be recommended a lot more next time. And I should be seeing like pretty good numbers when we have a lot more people coming in. So, yeah, it's like a cyclical thing, And right now, my videos are averaging pretty decently, I would say. But I really encourage you, if you're still listening, thank you. But also give me a like if you haven't yet, or if you haven't subscribed, to please subscribe. I would really appreciate that, because the more likes or comments as well, because that more engagement, it drives the algorithm and it gets more people looking at my channel. I do have to make more shorter videos, and that is on the agenda. So I have to start doing that more, because I don't think people like to click on videos just for podcasts, Plus, I think a lot of people listen to me through the RSS anyways. Yeah, based on how much shit I got when the RSS feed was down. Okay, let's get to the super chats. xmrchat.com/Xenu. And we got two this week. The first one from Monero Marathon. He gives 0.01 XMR. Thank you. It only takes 0.027 XMR to get your name or business on the donor wall of the historic Monero Marathon. Come help flood the board with Monero contributions. It has the sound effects you always rave about, Xenu. And he gives a link. I did check that out, and it does have sound effects. I love sound effects, man. I'm such a little kid with the internet. You put some bleeps and bloops in there, and I'm just into it. I really am like a child, I guess, huh? But that's pretty cool. I will be donating to get my name on that wall. I want to get on that wall. I don't know about you guys. So that's pretty cool. Thank you to Monero Marathon. And finally, we got a donation from Paper Hands, who gives 0.01 XMR. Appreciate it, brother. And he says, what's your take on Saylor selling 32 BTC? Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? My take on it is that he's dipping his toe in the water. He doesn't want to sell too much to scare the markets, but he's going to have to sell a lot more if he wants to keep his operation running. Yeah, it's inevitable that he's going to have to sell Bitcoin, and he's been lying this entire time saying he's never going to sell it, but he has to sell it. And people have deluded themselves into thinking he would never sell. How the markets are reacting so far, I mean, this only happened like an hour or two ago, and there is like I think Bitcoin's down like 2%. Let me see. Bitcoin's down 3% for the day, for the 24 hours. Yeah, it's Bitcoin right now doesn't have much buying power. Neither does, the rest of crypto either. Everything is kind of trending downwards. The whole Iran situation is, I mean, gas prices are ridiculous right now. It's not looking good for the economy. So, like, being bullish about Bitcoin right now, or crypto in general, is at the bottom of the thoughts of most investors. Because why would you, during times of uncertainty, buy a bunch of crypto? I mean, it's the most volatile asset out there, right? So I think Saylor's aware of this. He's not an idiot. He's an accomplished fraud, So he's selling a little bit. I think he's going to sell more because he needs to get cash to keep this operation running. Apparently, he also sold some shares as well. Yeah, the whole strategy going bankrupt thing, it's not going to happen overnight. This is going to be over the next 4 or 5 years, where they're just going to keep trying to pump these shit coins they're offering, or the preferred stocks or whatever, with these yields. And at a certain point, it's just going to become too hard to pay. And again, with Bitcoin's diminishing returns, they're not going to reach these lofty expectations they're expecting. And it's going to cripple strategy, and then they're going to sell more, and it's going to have a negative impact, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. All right, fellas, we're going to be ending the show there. Thank you so much for listening. xmrchat.com/Xenu. If you want to donate, you can also go to antimoonboy.com/merch if you want to buy some t-shirts. And in honor of Boards of Canada dropping a new album this week, we're going to be closing the show out with a tune by them. Thanks for listening. See you guys next week.